Welcome to a new video, which is the last part of Trigonometric Identities topic. In this video, I'll be showing you some challenging questions that you may come across. Without further ado, let's get started. Here guys, we have our first question, and in the first question, we have 5 plus 3 cosine square x minus sine square x divided by 2 cosine square x plus sine square x, and that is equal to what, guys? If you remember, there is an identity which was sine square x plus cosine square x, and that is equal to 1, guys. Here we're gonna benefit from that identity. Here we have sine square x, right? So if you take sine square x on left and send this cosine square x to the right side, then we're gonna have sine square x as 1 minus cosine square x, guys. So we will plug this equation into this sine square x, and once we do it, then we're gonna have 5 plus 3 times cosine square x minus, in the parentheses we have 1 minus cosine square x divided by the denominator. In the denominator part, guys, again I'm gonna do the same thing. Instead of sine square x, I'm gonna write 1 minus cosine square x, guys. And once you do it, then we're gonna have 2 cosine square x plus 1 minus cosine square x, guys. Here we have a negative sign, and if you distribute this negative sign into the parentheses, then we're gonna have negative 1. Okay, just let me actually make it like this, negative 1 and plus cosine square x. And now we don't have any parentheses anymore. So here we have negative 1, and here we have 5. So it's gonna be 5 minus 1, which is 4, right? So we have 4 from here, and we have 3 cosine square x from here, and we have another plus cosine square x. So if we add them up, then we have 4 times cosine square x, guys, divided by, here we have a negative cosine square x, and here we have 2 cosine square x. So if you subtract them, then we're gonna have 1 cosine square x, right? So we're gonna have cosine square x plus 1. Here, guys, if you look at the numerator, we have 4 in commons, right? So if I take those two terms in 4 parentheses, then we're gonna have 1 plus cosine square x divided by 1 plus cosine square x, guys. And now, as you can see, we have 1 plus cosine square x both in numerator and in denominator. So we can just cross them out, okay? And if you simplify the fraction, then we're gonna have 4 divided by 1, which is 4, guys. So the answer of this question is 4. And this is our next question, guys. And in this question, we have 1 divided by 1 minus sine x plus 1 divided by 1 plus, again, sine x. Here it was negative, and here we have positive. That's the only difference between those two terms, guys. And if you add those two terms, if it is equal to 8, then what is the value of cosine x, guys? And here we are asked to find the positive value of cosine x. That is important. So as you can see, we have 2 terms and 2 fractions. The denominators are different, so the first thing we should do is to make the denominators same, guys. And of course, we need to multiply the first term by 1 plus sine x, and we need to multiply the second term by 1 minus sine x, guys. And once we do it, then we're gonna have numerator is 1, so if you multiply this 1 by this value, then we're gonna have 1 plus sine x. So we have 1 plus sine x divided by 1 minus sine x times 1 plus sine x. Actually, I'm not gonna write the second term. I will just add this here because we have a plus sign between those two fractions. So I will keep going by just adding everything that I'm gonna obtain from the second fraction. So I'm gonna put here plus 1 times this 1 minus sine x. So we're gonna have 1 minus sine x, guys. And again, the denominators will be the same, so I just put everything with 1 denominator. And in the next step, guys, as you can see, we have here plus sine x, and here we have negative sine x. So we can just cross them out, and the leftover is, in the numerator we have 2, right? So we have 2 divided by, here I'm going to use an algebraic formula, guys. suppose that 1 is a, okay, sine x is b. So we have something like a minus b times a plus b. And what was it? A square minus b square, right? So just let me write it here. If you have a minus b times a plus b, and the result is going to be a square minus b square. So the square of 1 is 1 minus square of sine x is, of course, sine square x, guys. And this is equal to 8, guys. So right now I have an equation, right? And I'm going to use also one identity, which is sine square x plus cosine square x. And if this is 1, guys, how we can obtain cosine square x? Well, if you send this sine square x to the right side, then cosine square x, and just let me write it at the left bottom, guys. Cosine square x will be 1 minus sine square x, right? I'm gonna use that formula right over here, because 1 minus sine square x is cosine square x, so I will just substitute these. Then we're gonna have 2 divided by cosine square x, and this is equal to 8, guys. Here we can write in the denominator part on the right side 1, and if you apply the cross multiplication, 8 times cosine square x, which is, okay, let me continue like this, 8 cosine square x is equal to 2, guys. If you divide both sides by 8, these are gone, so cosine square x will be, let me continue on the top right, cosine square x is, guys, 2 divided by 8 is 1 divided by 4, guys, right? If you take the square root of both sides here, guys, take the square root of both sides, and in this case, cosine x is, it is actually plus and negative 1 divided by 2, but we are asked to find its positive value, so it's gonna be plus 1 divided by 2, guys. So we can say that the answer is 1 divided by 2 in this question. And this is our next question, guys. Here we have tangent x plus cotangent x, and if this is equal to 3, then what is the value of tangent square x plus cotangent square x? Well, if you take the square of both sides here, guys, the left side and the right side, then we're gonna have tangent square x plus cotangent square x plus 2 times tangent x times cotangent x, and that is equal to 9, guys. There is again a famous algebraic formula, which is if you take the square of this, okay, and then we're gonna have the square of the first term, which is a, right, a square, plus the square of the second term, which is b square, plus first term times second term times 2, guys, which is 2 times a times b. So we just benefited from this formula, and here we're asked to find this part, right? Tangent square x plus cotangent square x. Again, I'm gonna use another identity, guys. If you remember, tangent x times cotangent x was 1, right? So this part is 1 actually, and there is 2 times 1, which is 2, guys. And if you send, actually this part is 2, right? And if you send this 2 to the right side, and we have tangent square x plus cotangent square x, and we have 9 minus 2, guys, which is 7. On the left it was positive 2. If you send it to the right side, it's negative 2, so it's 9 minus 2. For the people who don't know what I did here, I recommend you to take a look at one of my previous videos about shortcuts in calculations. Anyway, so the answer is, guys, in this question, 7. And this is our last question, guys, in this video. Here we have 3 times cosine x minus 2 times sine x divided by 2 times sine x plus cosine x, and if this is 2 divided by 3, and then what is the value of tangent x? Here all we need to do is, if you apply the cross multiplication, guys, and then we're gonna have 3 times this part, and then it is equal to 2 times the denominator part. And let's apply it and let's see what we're gonna have. Here, guys, we're gonna multiply 3 by each term. So 3 times, actually let me write it first. 3 times in the parentheses, we have 3 cosine x minus 2 sine x, and this is equal to, guys, 2 times in the parentheses 2 sine x plus cosine x, guys. And now if you distribute this 3 into the parentheses, then we're going to have 9 cosine x minus 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 sine x, and this is equal to, guys, again, we need to distribute these 2 into the parentheses. And once we do it, then we're going to have 4 sine x plus 2 cosine x, guys. And here, guys, we're going to keep sine x on one side and the cosine x on the other side. So because we have here negative, let's send this to the right to make it positive. And we have here 9 cosine, so the more cosines we have is on the left. And here we have just 2 cosine. So I'm going to send this 2 cosine to the left, okay? And then sine to the right. So that means I will keep the cosines on the left and the sines on the right. And once we do it, then we're going to have 9 cosine x minus 2 cosine x, right? Because here it was plus, and if you send it to the other side, it's going to be negative. Is equal to, guys, on the right side, we have already here 4 sine x. And if you send this negative 6 sine x to the right also, plus 6 sine x, guys. And in the next step, we're going to have 9 minus 2, which is 7 cosine x. And on the right, we have 4 plus 6, which is 10 sine x, guys. So what we're going to do is we will keep the trigonometric functions on one side and the numbers on the other side. So because we are asked to find the value of tangent x, which is sine divided by cosine, right? So let me actually continue from the top right. So I'm going to divide both sides by cosine x. So those are gone. And in the next step, we have 7 is 10 times, because sine x divided by cosine x will give us tangent x, right? So this is already tangent x. And if you divide both sides by 10 also, these are gone. So tangent x is left over and it's alone anymore. So from here we can see that tangent x is 7 divided by 10, guys. So that is the result of this question. I just picked 4 questions, guys, as challenging questions, but of course you can increase the number of questions. Well, in order to grasp the whole topic, actually, you need to make more practices. If you have any question related to the questions that I solved or anything in this topic, you can put them in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video.